I hope that this brings much rejuvenation and restoration to anybody who might want to quiet a racing mind. If you are also quilt planning or anything else has your mind racing today. In today's video, we're going to talk about quilt planning, and I have been here getting ready for a quilt I'll make in 2026. I hope to be able to start selling quilt kits, and this will be my first sample. I have here the Winter Blossom pattern by So Spicious that I chose, and I'm really excited. It is so modern and chic, and I really like how they played with the pinks and oranges and white in the cover version. And I also went with apricot and pink, a little bit of a saddle brown, a charcoal black, and then an ivory background. My mock-up I did in quilt ink has all of it right here. So I just took this to the shop and I asked for all the cuts of everything I mocked up, and it should be a really good attention grabber if I should choose to do anything like a quilt market or have a vendor booth in any kind of craft fair. For this one I went with a ruby star, and these are all just their starry prints, and then I did ivory in the Moda Bella Solids. I really like the idea of a kind of a creamy colored background. It makes it cozy and like there's maybe less dyes in it because the majority of it is like a lighter color with a little bit darker just for accents. So I'm excited to make that in 2026. And I plan to have it done probably by the end of the summer or somewhere into the fall. And then we can talk all about maybe getting a website up or an Etsy, and I can sell some quilt kits, and I might even go in on a wholesaler license with one of the major fabric manufacturers in order to really be able to make a good profit for my time in making the quilt kits. So when it comes to quilt planning, I used quilt ink, and in there I got to play around with different colors and manufacturers of the fabrics, make sure that what I was choosing was the right scale to the design, and I got to see most of the cut lines and where things were going to go. The designers of these patterns do a great job making sure that all of their dimensions are accurate in quilt ink, and they can let you just play away. So I also really like to support small quilt designers, indie quilt designers, if you will, because they're just getting started just like me. And I find that the ones with a more modern approach to a quilt block that I've never seen before, like So Spicious, the designer of Winter Blossom, I really gravitate toward them. And this one, I really haven't seen a quilt block like this before. So it caught my attention and I want to make it. I think I want to make a large throw size, a 75 by 75. So I'm really happy to be able to say I got all of this fabric at local quilt shops in my area, and it was fun just to kind of travel around and see. One of them had the Bella Solid, and then one of them had Ruby Star, and they also sold quilt kits in the Ruby Star. I'm excited to see actually more of what Ruby Star does, because I think they have a really interesting community online. I don't know if all of the brights are quite my style. I'm still deciding if I'm a bright quilter or more of a moody kind of fabric quilter. But that's something fun in your first several years in your quilt journey, like I am. I think I started in 2022 when my son was in my belly, and I was making my first quilt, which was his baby quilt. And that one went a lot more moody with some fun pops in it. And I definitely wasn't buying quality quilting cotton from a quilt shop. So I am still in the early phases of my journey as a quilter, and I'm so happy with how the feel of Ruby Star has been so far. I did pre-wash these, especially the darker fabrics. I do worry about fabric bleeding, and I don't really use color catchers. I hear that you don't have to worry about fabric bleeding if you use color catchers in the wash after you make your quilt and then wash it the first time. So I just go ahead and pre-wash, pre-shrink, get any extra dye out, and then I can be off to the races with my little creation. So that is that. So that's my mock-up. And then that is the cover quilt from the designer's version of the pattern. And then I also have this on PDF, so in case the paper version isn't working, I can still refer to my iPad or my any device for the PDF version. So with quilt planning comes quite a bit of what I would call mind racing. I find my mind racing when I'm trying to choose between the fabric manufacturers, if I'm going to go a little bit more moody or bright or neutral in my colors, but I still want them to stand out and pop in the ways in which the pattern designer intended, especially while I'm a baby quilter still, and I want to make sure that what I do is going to have a good vision, and it's going to turn out the way that I envisioned it to begin with. So that's why I really like programs where I can mock up my quilt. So in quilt planning, I do find myself several times, sometimes like in the middle of the night, going back to my software to mock up the quilt and modify or create a new draft. So sometimes I'll have like 10 drafts of one quilt pattern before I finally make my decision to buy the fabric and print the pattern, buy the pattern, and then start actually sewing on my machine. So with mind racing or decision fatigue, that's a very real thing. I really just wanted to revisit the yoga flow that I curated over several months in postpartum. So I had a baby in January of 2025, and that was just months after I finished my yoga teacher certification, including my prenatal certification. And I created this, this little routine, this little sequence of yoga poses that were really nourishing to my body in postpartum after having the shot that numbs you for a C-section, and a little bit of back pain from that, and it just gets you to reconnect with your breath and reconnect with your thoughts. And this actually also helps me soothe enough to be able to fall asleep and just melt into my pillow and my mattress. So what you'll see here in this flow that I'm about to show is something just to chill you out. It's floor only pretty much, maybe a little bit of all fours, but also on tummy on the floor, which a few weeks after giving birth and recovering from C-section, I was good to be on my tummy, I felt. And I hope that this brings much rejuvenation and restoration to anybody who might want to quiet a racing mind. If you are also quilt planning or anything else has your mind racing today, and please join me if you feel like this will be helpful to you. So happy quilt planning! Begin on all fours. Sway the hips back and forth, left to right. Extend the right foot out and press back with that heel, getting a nice calf stretch. Find the toes coming to the ground to get a nice stretch going the other way. Cross right leg over left to let those right toes drift all the way across. Gaze goes towards those toes. Same with the left side now. Left toes go back, pressing that heel back to get that calf stretch, pressing the tops of the toes down into the floor. Pressing the base of the toes back again, and then swinging that leg all the way over to the other side to cross that right heel, and then gaze goes towards that right to look at those toes. Return to all fours. Your seat goes back, your hands go down, your elbows go down, and your head goes to the mat, your forehead goes to the mat to find a child's pose. Breathe in and out, connect with that breath. Find yourself on all fours again. Reach the right hand all the way up to the sky and thread it through. Thread the needle. Allow it to come below your chest and through to the opposite side of the mat, and allow your right part of your head, your right temple, to go to the base of the mat. Same thing, other side. Left hand goes up to the sky and then comes down and sweeps across the mat and goes to your right side, threading that needle and allowing your head to reach the mat for a few breaths here. Find some cat-cows. Allow the gaze to go up, and then the belly goes to the floor, and then cat. The arch of the back comes up and the head goes down. Gaze goes up for cow, and then your gaze goes down for cat. Find yourself going to the belly to the mat. Let your elbows settle on the floor, fingers spread wide at the front of the mat, and come up. Raise that chest up on the inhale, and then down on the exhale. 2 more. Up and down. Big exhale. And then up 1 more. Extend through the crown of that head, and then down for a nice exhale to get all of that air out of the body. Roll over on your side. Find your way to your back by bringing those knees up when you come from your side to your back. With your hands hooked behind your knees, rock side to side. This is a half happy baby. Maybe your ankles cross while they're up in the air. If you would like, go to a full happy baby. Take the hands from behind the knees to the sides of your feet and rock side to side. Maybe your knee hits the floor. Maybe it just goes a little bit. Allow your left foot to come to the mat while your right ankle crosses over your left thigh. Press that right knee away from the body to get a nice stretch through the hip. Reach back, hands behind the left knee, and bring that foot up off the mat towards the chest. Maybe your foot goes into the air a little bit for a twist of the ankle. Again, bring that left knee to the chest as much as you can. And now for a supine twist, your right knee comes across the body and you lie down. Maybe your right arm drifts up over your head or it rests nicely on your tummy. A few breaths here. Okay, hook that left foot over that knee on your way back up. Ease your overuse of your abdomen. And now your left ankle is resting nicely on your right knee. Push that left knee away from the body. After a breath or two there, come and hook your hands around your right knee and bring that right foot off the floor. Bring that right knee into the chest. Maybe the right ankle comes up to the sky for a little bit of a circle. And allow your left knee to drift all the way to the opposite side of the body and onto the floor. Left arm does a big drift over the top of the head for a nice stretch. Okay, and coming back onto the back, swaying those knees left to right, feet to mat. Bridge, hands up over the head, pointing toward the ceiling on the inhale. The belly comes up with those hands and then down towards the side of the body. Follow the breath with the movement. Whenever your hands come up, pointing straight up from the gaze of your eye toward the ceiling, your belly comes up. And then belly and tush go down back to the mat. And that is the exhale. The hands go down to the mat as well. Have a little bit of a rock with those hips, side to side. Hands to belly, really feel that breath. Breath fills the belly, the ribs, the chest. And on the exhale, lower back release. Really press that lower back into the mat. Couple more here, in and out at your own pace. Roll over and find yourself gently into all fours again. Allow that right knee to pivot into where your tips of your toes go at a 45-degree angle off that right edge of the mat. Left foot comes to the base of the mat flat. You're going to do a modified plank here. Stretch through those toes. Reach that left arm straight above. And when you're ready, when you find your balance, point those fingers way up over the direction that tip of your head is pointing. On an inhale, it finds more of a chest opening. On an exhale, it finds those hands, those fingers pointing further and further and further past the crown of your head. Same thing, other side. The left knee is down now. Left toes go off the edge of the mat. And then the right toes off the base of the mat. Lengthen through that right leg. Lengthen through your right side. Fingertips to the ceiling first. And then they reach over past the crown of the head. Inhales get a little bit more chest opening to the ceiling. Exhales lengthen through the crown of the head. Return to tabletop, hands and knees, and find yourself in a child's pose. When you're ready, come to seated. Few breaths with yourself here just to reconnect with yourself. Congratulate yourself for going to the mat today. Namaste.